And I think we're
Yeah. Oh, hello.
Turn it down, bud.
Yeah, that's going to be a massive echo, isn't it? Oh, stop that. Ooh. Okay, I got it. Too many computers. There we go. Too much going on there. Anyway, Cash has had enough. The feedback's killed Cash straight away.
He had a good run.
There we go. Right. Set this up. Yeah, we're in that, and we're all good. It's looking like we're sorted. Right. So anyone who is watching this has just watched us, well, me.
Very unprofessional.
I know. It's the quality that you should expect by now. So.
Well.
So handballs, huh?
good starting place. Seeing first of all that there was a video that was shown over here. I'm not sure if it was shown on over in the States, Alex. But there was essentially a argument that was shown at half time between two folks in the VAR room. I think that being one pretty much one giving the actual VAR the VAR folk. It looked like he's giving him a pretty big telling off. And I think it's therefore abundantly clear that it was a catastrophic decision, in which, who knows, there may be might have to be an apology for. What can you do? Max's arm is as low as it can. It's him at such a speed. He's never going to be able to move it out of the way. He's never going to be able to shift it to the back or put it avoiding touching the hand.
It's at the point where a defender in the box has to keep their arms and their hands in their pockets and like just runs with your arms straight at your side, and that's the only conceivable way. Like, what are they going to do if they want to keep VAR? Are they going to alter the box and shrink the penalty area then and start giving away free kicks in those positions instead of penalties? Or I mean, is it only the second year? It feels like a decade of these decisions.
It's only the second season of VAR, yes.
It's still better than, being onside and pointing where you want the ball and having that called as offside, as was that the Leeds game the other day? But I mean, at what point do you do they get rid of it? Like, it's just obvious it's not going to work. It doesn't work.
I think the problem there was that as soon as he watched that in slow motion, and he only watched it back in slow motion, it was going to be a penalty. I mean, you watch it in slow motion, it's a penalty. It looks like a penalty. But he's also given. But if you don't watch it in full speed at all, you don't have that. You don't have that perspective on what actually happened, because in real time, there's no way that he was ever going to get that arm out of the way, and it wasn't in an unnatural position. You slow it down and only show it from a certain angle, which you could see in the replay and what ref watching it, and he only watched it in slow motion. You watch it in slow motion. I'm not surprised he gave it as a penalty. As soon as I saw him go over to the screen, I was like, no, it's going to be a penalty, because they're only going to watch it in slow motion, and it looks like a penalty. But as soon as you put that back in real time, you're like, well, that's never a penalty. It's just blasted at his body. And
when you're running at full speed and you stop, you have to. That's what your arms do naturally.
Exactly.
And also,
yeah.
If it's not something that you're going to give a card for, should it be something that you give a penalty for? If you can tell, doesn't that admit that it was not on purpose? If you don't even show a yellow card, like.
Well, I suppose in the current ruling of it, arms not being in an unnatural position, it's a penalty. Well, in real time, his arms were in a natural position. That's where your arms generally go. You can't run unless you're going to run around. What's the meme that's going around at the moment, where everyone's running around like that? We're going to have players running around like that every game, which he started to do, because you know, and that's running with your arms behind you, unless you're a child, is really an unnatural position. So
it's like Tina from Bob's Burgers, basically, is what we'll look like.
Well, that's it. But you know, you use slow motion. I've got no problem. You should use slow motion, but you've also got to run it back again at full speed to get the real context. That's the problem. I still think that's the problem they haven't kind of quite seemed to have grasped. You've got to have context to these decisions. You can't just run it off. You know, you can stop that and make something look really bad, but unless it's got context, it's not. It means nothing. But
well, that ref's given up the most penalties this season by far, right? I don't know his name, and I don't care to know his name, but he's the statistic was he's given the most penalties, and just by a huge number.
Well, that doesn't surprise me, considering we're on the wrong end of two of them. Obviously, the second one is pretty obvious, and
yeah, it's a penalty. The second one is a definite penalty. And to be fair, fate was on our side at that point, and Rui pulled out a great save. So
did he, or did it just hit his balls? It just hit his balls.
It was Anthony Taylor who's the ref.
His balls are that big. That's
Anthony Taylor. His balls are that big.
He tends to give penalties away a lot as well, in general, not just this season. I think
what's interesting, Vardy's got 8 goals, and I think is it 6 or 7 of them are penalties. Like he's not the same player at all if he's just scoring penalties.
He is 33, 34 though, so he is beginning to obviously get towards that age where he's playing less.
I'm just going to admit somebody into the room. Sorry for cutting you short there. Let's get someone in. We've got
like another person.
We do
live.
Richard, you're on mute at the moment, so you'll need to unmute yourself. The anticipation.
Richard is a long-time listener, first-time caller.
Oh, if you are there, Richard, we can't hear you because you're muted. Oh, there we are. You're not muted anymore. Hello, Richard.
Hello.
Hey, there we go. We're just discussing penalties, handballs, and other such things. What's your take on the old penalties?
Can't argue the second one. I mean, I don't think first one goes away. So
struggling to hear you, Rich.
Right, let me just. I'll come back to you. I'll change it. How about that? Is that better? Is that better?
Can't hear you.
It got a little better, but it's still a little feedbacky. By the way, all that anybody in America can talk about is Jota. Just so you guys know, he's everywhere now. He's apparently the face of Liverpool.
Yeah.
That isn't surprising, considering the way he started, though. You've got to give him credit where credit is due for the way he has started.
I'm giving him no credit whatsoever.
Okay.
No, the way he moped around the end of last season, and then suddenly gets his move, and he's all no. Sorry.
Okay.
I question his attitude, if that's the case. Sorry, Richard. Give it. You try that again.
Can you hear me now?
Quiet, clearer.
Quiet.
It's much better.
Clearer.
Yes.
Is it better?
Much better. Hey, there we go.
So it's probably my position.
Fantastic. So yes, we were.
I think I'm interested. I think. Go on.
No, go on. Yeah, Karen.
What I was saying about the penalties, I think on balance you've got to say you can't argue with one, and the other one, yeah, it's soft. It shouldn't really be given, but you're going to see them when they slow it down. Because when you slow it down, you see him trying to pull his hand back, which is almost like a smoking gun, isn't it? You know, he's leaning and then he pulls it away because he knows what's going to happen, and it's like a smoking gun. It is ridiculous. I mean, if you try and run and play football with your hands tied behind your back, you're going to be on your bottom a lot of the time.
Absolutely. Well, in the game after that had happened, you saw a couple of times when he was running back, he was running with his arms behind his back.
Yeah.
So, and that's hamstringing his ability to get back properly. So,
yeah, I mean, the whole VAR thing. I mean, when you're in the ground, ever since was the last season he came in, season before, was it, or the last season?
It was last season.
Yeah, the experience in the ground is shocking. You've no idea what's going on. It just comes up penalty, VAR. You go, and okay, if you're on television and they're showing you the replays, yeah, you get a bit of that. But if you're in the ground, that moment of joy when you're elated, and then you see that, it's just. It got to the point where I'm thinking, do I want to keep my season ticket? Which
absolutely. I don't think you're alone in that. It's like a moment. As soon as you see that thing come up on the screen, it's like a moment of dread, and you're like, oh, yeah. Here we go.
You don't celebrate twice either if it goes your way.
No.
It literally is soul destroying. I have to say,
it's I do a lot of parallels with my NFL experiences, because that's where I get to go to games, and that's I've been following them a lot more than most, but that's an NFL thing where you'll see a great play and then you'll see a flag go up, or even if there isn't a flag that goes up, you don't even celebrate, because you know that there's every chance in the world it's going to be erased. And so that's as the Premier League moves more towards the NFL model, which is what they're trying to do, it takes a lot of the fun away, and it's just it's lawyer stuff at that point. Like we don't know what a catch is in the NFL, so we don't know what a handball is in football either. So
you're absolutely spot on. And I've said this a few times, and I think I'll probably say it again until VAR is either scrapped completely or there is some substantial changes to it. But imagine if that game was at Molyneux this afternoon and there was no COVID around, and therefore meant 30,000 plus inside the ground. I could not have imagined the sheer just fury. And I reckon, because a number of times we've been on the wrong end of it, it could have got very, very nasty. And I think personally, sadly and scarily, that the next time we are on the wrong end of it and we have a full house, it will get nasty. And that a referee or an official or somebody of those lines could be put in big danger as a result of simply them not failing able to do their jobs. It's a system which again at the 2018 World Cup worked wonders. It did exactly what it needed to do, but its implementation domestically here has been surely the worst anywhere in world football.
Well, it's the arrogance. It's the arrogance of the FA. And all the FA and the referees. There's an arrogance that they don't need to do it like the World Cup, because we know better than everybody else. So we're going to do it our way, and it shows it doesn't. It's not working.
Well, we may have created laws of the game, and the IFAB may be based here in the United Kingdom. As you say, the UK runs the rules regulates the laws of football and puts them into statute, but still, this VAR, we're completely and utterly hopeless, absolutely out of their depth. And if the FA haven't realised, I think if you wait for FIFA, really haven't probably honest realised as to why how much clubs like us are being screwed over and bent backwards, then surely again this afternoon will prove that. And again, just knowing the fact that the person in charge of VAR that day, this afternoon, was given a pasting by his boss on camera at half time, being shown to a few million, at least here in the UK, then clearly we know that the system did not do its function properly.
Interestingly, did you notice on your feed when you were watching it, on the second one, which was checked, they seemed to be doing a check for if someone was offside.
Yeah, it was Vardy was offside.
Yeah,
he was interfering with play.
They were showing. And I was like, how can a striker in an attacking move in the middle of the pitch on a ball that's being played through to the middle not be affecting play? If he was standing there and didn't move, you go, okay. I mean, as it is, I actually thought the second one was a nailed on penalty.
Well, it wasn't played through to the middle, though. It was played to the right wing.
Yeah, but even so, if you just leave Vardy to run, you don't just stand there and go, I ain't not worried about Vardy. He's not effective.
Well, the point is, if he gets the cross in, if it's a first time cross, then the Vardy would have been affecting play.
Yeah.
But he could. So, I mean, I didn't have a problem with that, to be honest, because I think there's too much bringing it back.
Yeah.
I mean, we benefited. You're benefiting some of those, but it was a foul in the actual moment.
Absolutely. I mean, if they ruled that off,
but
that
if
would
it's
have been really
Liverpool,
hard.
Well, plus that's Jimenez's game.
I mean, if it's Liverpool,
too, he's always one step offside almost the entire time. So.
Yeah, I mean, the penalties,
when he's in an attacking position.
On VAR, I'd like to get your views because I've witted on about this to people I know, and nobody seems to get it. But if you look at the technology they use, there's two basic video technologies where you take an instant picture on the silicon, which is that's like a frame, or you can use the scanning. How you can read it from scanning, so you can either lock and take the entire however many pixels you've got as one picture, but that's not as high resolution, or you can scan. So most cameras scan, so you scan from the top and you scan the memory, and that scan rate can be, I think the fastest they use is 120 milliseconds, so it's pretty fast. But if you do the maths of how fast a player can moves, there is a significant error rate there, which nobody takes into account.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And the second thing is, if you're using two cameras because of the position of the ball to work out when it was kicked, very often again, if there's any synchronization issues, like that camera is different to that, you're going to introduce a few millimeters, few centimeters difference with the speed the players can move. There's no discussion of that when they're saying, oh, is there a centimetre offside? You think, well, there's got to be a margin of error. I don't know what the margin of error is. I've done some calculations, and I reckon it's 5 minutes, but I don't know what technology they use. I'm basing on what they've said. And you think, okay, if you were believing in this technology, you would actually give all the facts. You'd say, this is the error rate, this is the margin of error, this is how we guarantee that. But there's none of that. It's a matter of faith that it's perfectly 100% right. So as they're moving it forward and backwards like a frame at a time, you're thinking, well, that represents, X of a second.
Yeah,
but you're making the judgment of when the ball's kicked.
TV is either 24 or 25 frames a second.
Well, it's much faster than that they're using for broadcast.
Oh, they are, right, okay.
Yeah, I think they're up to 120 frames a second, and they also have 60 frame a second cameras, which is where the synchronization problem comes in. So if they do actually say they've got a number of 120 frames a second cameras, and they've got a number of 60 frame cameras, and they use the 120 frame cameras to determine when the ball's being kicked. Although how you can do that, because if you've ever kicked a ball, there's an element, in fact, the dynamics, you kick it, you make an indent in the ball, that reacts and it leaves your foot. But anyway, they must. But none of this is explained. And you kind of think, I don't believe you've actually thought about it. Or if you do, you don't like the answer.
No, I know you mean. There's many ways
of the rules, which
I think they could use much better technology.
The last one is. The last one I think is the rules were made for when you're using the human eye. And I was always told that if you're with offside decisions, you go with the attacker, you favour attacking play. So the rules were entirely written without VAR, and you think at grassroots football, people saying, well, it hit your hand, the two-shot line. Well, how is that relevant to grassroots football? You almost need two sets of rules, VAR rules and rules for the human eye. It's not the way I want to go.
Well, to be fair, they don't referee league matches anywhere near the same as a Sunday league match, because if you spoke to the referee the way some of those top league players spoke to a referee in Sunday league, you'd be off. You just wouldn't be on the pitch. It's as simple as that. Games would be abandoned every week because if the way they give it out to the ref, there's no way you'd be on the pitch. No way, not a chance. So I mean, they don't referee them the same as it is. So it's already massively different in my opinion anyway. So
What do you think of the actual performance, though?
well, that's what I was going to say. If we go, so we normally have a bit here where we have our hot takes from the game. So has anyone got a hot take that they would like to put forward?
Leicester will finish in the bottom 10.
Oh,
Oh, that's bold. I
Sounds
think
a bit
Leicester.
cool.
I would say Leicester City have got every chance of finishing in the top 4, and that this season they won't mess it up. They've actually had the better. I think they're like 4 or 5 points up on last season. And it's beginning to show because the way in which Brendan Rodgers has pulled this squad together over the last few years has been nothing short but impressive. And their owner, obviously, I watched Rihanna Prava and his team at King Power have just given Rodgers the resources, and they're fair play to them for the quality they've got. I think the quality probably showed as well within Kasper Schmeichel's absolute stunning save from Ruben Neves. He's a goalkeeper he's a goalkeeper whose father will probably be looking up to him quite soon. Knowing the way in which he has just really gone from strength to strength, and just a save like that just demonstrates how wonderful or how decent of a side they've got. Obviously, Rui though with his save was from the penalty was quite nice too. But I think Leicester have got a very good shot of really being in the mix up there this season for at least the Champions League spot. And with how unpredictable the start these first 8 weeks have been, then perhaps 2015-16 again. Who's to rule it out?
Well, I'm motivated purely by spite. So, but with I need to find the statistics, but just with how many penalties they're getting week in and week out, as long as that continues and they get that nice treatment, they'll be fine. But I'm going to say bottom 10 because I'm just mad. I'm really mad. So.
well, I'm gonna give my hot take of that. I sadly don't think that Silva will score a goal before Christmas, and I think currently he will be on loan somewhere else next season.
Yeah, I'm with you there. We just saw just a short snip today, and he looked completely out of place.
Yeah,
so
I don't like that. But when I don't like saying it. He is a young player and all that. But when you saw Neto come into the side last season, and you've seen Nori have his game last game, there's something that you go. There's something there. You can see something, and go, yeah, he's got to. He's a bit raw, but but I'm not. I hate to say it. I'm not seeing it with this guy.
At the moment, it doesn't help though that he's got so much expectation on him.
No, I'm not. I'll be honest. I'm not expecting him to bang in 20 goals. But all I'm kind of looking for is something that you go, there's something there. But I'm not.
A flash.
A flash of something. I'm just seeing beige at the moment.
He needs to be given, I think, a full 90 minutes at some point. If he could be given a full 90 minutes at some point and a fuller chance to express himself, then we can certainly judge him. I can get where you're coming from. I think the fan base as a whole need to just calm down on it. I think.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Don't get me wrong. I'm not expecting this world superstar to dominate games.
Yeah.
But I thought we would have seen. And not to be honest, not even to justify the price. I'm not bothered about the price. I'm on about to justify coming on the pitch and actually playing. That's all I'm on about. If he's coming on as a sub and you're going to take off one of Neto or Podence, who once they've gone off, there's nothing. There was no coherence in attack whatsoever. If he's coming on, then I'm expecting, well, there's a reason he's coming on. He must have something. And I'm just seeing.
You'd have been better bringing on Saiz and just lumping the ball up into the box. And that's a good point. If you watch
Saiz is box to box, though.
Yeah,
and
he's a true striker.
He can shoot as well. Because if you watch any manager who brings on a young player, that young player is given a very specific role to do. It might just be get the ball and run. I mean, it might
Yeah.
be drop in and support midfield, and you expect to see them do. The manager would introduce them knowing that they can do that job. I think I saw little indications of, yeah, he might be able to do something, but he's way off. I mean, he got a lucky free kick, I thought, when I can't remember who fouled him, but it seems, you need to be a bit stronger, and you've seen that in a few games. But in terms of, he's 18, isn't he? I think is he 18?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
He's 18, yeah.
That's what I mean. I'm not slating him in as such
I know
because I don't think he's ready. That's
he's
all
not
it is.
ready. Yeah. I agree. I mean, he may be worth 35 million in 5 years' time because everyone
absolutely.
develops at different rates. I mean, people these years between like 17, if you think of Rooney at 18, man, absolutely, you'd think, whoa, I'm not. You can have the ball. Whereas other players take 5 or 6 years to, they need to be 23, 4. So you've got to manage their development. It might just be a matter of game time. There's been talk of moving him to the under-23s for a few games. In a way,
maybe that would help.
Well, it could, but it could also. I mean, if he doesn't do well there, what does that do to his confidence?
No, exactly. It was also. It would also have that apparently there's been a lot of bashing of him on Twitter this afternoon. A lot of bashing at Fabio, which imagine if you are a youngster who was bought for £35 million and then you see all that negativity from folks, which is unjustifiable. That was like his 4th or 5th game he's been involved in, folks. If people could just take a minute.
Well, that's it.
It's unacceptable.
I don't want to bash him for his price because that he has no control over the price.
Exactly.
You bought for what you bought. You don't have, but I think my thing is that if he's going to be on the bench, any player, in fact, for that matter, who's on the bench and brought on, they've got to have something to Otherwise, that place is being taken up. It's being taken up when another player who may be more deserving or more influential on the game isn't there then on the bench. That's my main concern.
There is a point there though. Striker wise, who else have you got?
Some are suggesting Catrone might come back. There's obviously Rafa Mir's out on loan. Then we're obviously still looking for the youngster like
Bonatini.
Lear's at Grasshopper.
He's good for 10 goals before Christmas every year.
It was 12 goals. It was 12 goals he got.
Was it 12?
He did score in the Premier League, didn't he?
No, it's the FA Cup against League Cup against League Cup against Sheffield Wednesday. August the 27th, 2018. As his only goal of that season before we then, I think, went out on loan and got faffed around with or so forth.
How old is he now, though? Because he's another one who...
28, 29, something like that.
All right, so he's gone, yeah. Well, the one you wonder about...
He's 26.
Yeah, the one you wonder about is that guy Torino, their striker, because he looks the real deal. I mean, Bolletti, do you remember when we played? I thought he was well worth a punt on, but I don't think you'd get him. I think he's destined for big things. It's just a matter of when. But striker-wise, if you think about Raul, I mean, the value we've had out of him in terms of he plays every week, and often, like today was a great example where he didn't really have much of a shout, but he's back doing the dirty work. He'll put in a tackle here. He'll be back heading the ball out of defence when he has to. He's back up the pitch. He was doubled up on all the time in the Leicester box. That's why they won so many headers away from him. So you can see he's doing the work rate. You feel he needs somebody just off him to feed off the scraps sometimes. And because we play wide forwards, there's never anybody there. There's nobody, he's often isolated. And to me, the problem is that we are getting better, a lot better in the recent games. We need more players in the box when we're crossing.
Absolutely.
We need players arriving. I can't stand this slow backwards build-up that we're doing first half.
I don't know why we went back to that style today.
No. Yeah, We've discussed this, Richard, many times. I think in the last several games, actually, of just so I was deeply frustrated of seeing whenever we got onto the ball, then just how it was almost like they're taking a morning stroll around a leisure park. If you got the ball, inject some pace into it.
Yeah.
That first half particularly, again, first half's a use not a thing, but again, yes, the penalty sucked life out of us, but that still should have been no excuse for us to try and push on. Because
well, that's it. You don't have to go raging forwards if you want to control the game and the first half keep it tight and stuff like that. There's still no reason why you can't keep tempo in your passing and your movement and stuff like that. I thought it was very telling that towards the end of the first half, you saw nothing really of Podence that much until the last 5 or 10 minutes when the ball when we started to keep the possession and move it up into that end of the pit. Then Podence is the kind of player who then comes into his own. His movement and his vision is actually, I think, outstandingly good. And it makes it's very, very clear when he goes off how much we drop off and don't hold the ball up at all in the. And I'll be honest, I thought Raúl had a poor game and was was over trying, I think, where he was getting a little bit too selfish. There's a few situations where he got the ball. I mean, one, he could have just knocked it left to Podence and Podence was through. I mean, he could have even gone right, which wouldn't have been as good of a ball, but he didn't. He just elected to try and run through 3 players, and it's.
I think that the problem is with Raúl. I suspect there's an element of he's expecting to be on his own, and he doesn't really look up enough. And you've got to train that in. If you want and set up like that, if you want him to be laying the ball off, you've got to really make that obvious. But it seems a lot of the time he thinks it's down to me to score. He almost absolutely agree with you. But I still think I'm not. Strikers are always selfish by nature.
Oh God, yeah, you've got to be,
yeah. And I do think there's an element of if you set the team up better, or the classic one is which one? Who's our sweeper? Is it Neves or Cody? Now at least Neves was going forward more. But if you look when we're on the attack, there's four players back, and we're relying a lot on the wings to attack down the centre. If you're an opposition defender in the first half, you might as well say, "I'll get my slippers," because all I know, we've got to set up our lines, occasionally threaten you, and you'll play back, and then I can just have a cup of tea, wait for you to come, and then I'll set up again. If you watch a good team who's like you've said, controlling the game with zippy passing, the defense is having to think all the time. They've got to react. So they're moving, they're not just ambling, they're moving. They can't rest. And because of that, you're wearing them out mentally. Man City are a great example. They're happy to lose the ball all the time because they're convinced they're going to win it back. I think, and my biggest concern is we're concerned that if we lose the ball, especially with someone like Vardy, I mean, how many times have you seen him do this? If you lose the ball and there's a break, Cody's not going to catch him. So there's an element of we need 2 or 3 players back to actually defend. And I don't know what the answer to that is, because you watch Cody pinging balls around. It's fantastic. He's brilliant. He's good defensively. He organises the defence. But somehow we have to allow Cody to almost have the Neves role and Neves to be much further up. So Cody receives the ball, and that means maybe the 2 fullbacks drop behind as a bit more defensive. I don't know. Something's got to happen to allow us to attack more, because through the centre there's very little. I mean, you're right though. Once Podence is there, complete. You can see the whole stress levels of defences going up. Defenders don't like people running at them around the box, do they?
No. Well, it's not just running with the ball. He's running off the ball is good. I mean, and Neto for that matter. I mean, I do notice that it seems that Neto and Podence seem to work as a 2. They seem to be kind of with each other a lot, and then Raúl
interchange, don't they?
Yeah. And I wasn't sure. I mean, the other thing for me as well is in the second half. I mean, obviously we took Podence off and we took Neto off. Traore came on, who was then our outlet, and then we seemingly wanted to kick it down the other side of the pitch for the rest of the game, regardless of the fact that the couple of times Troy had it, he actually knocked a couple of good decent balls in. I don't quite get that one.
All got fouls, all went corners.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you think there's an element? I mean, looking at the way they manage his arm, there was a lot of talk about. Well, he did get dislocated last season. I wonder whether it's just a matter of we can't, if we just can't go hold. But then he plays for Spain. I don't know. I just don't understand the Traore thing at all. He needs game time as well. He seems to be a player that you need to give him game time to get better. God, I don't know.
I think Traore for me is. I mean, I think I said it on the forum, and he's our plan B. Everyone's been calling for a plan B.
Yeah.
And then suddenly everyone's like, "Oh, we should sell him. We should sell him. He doesn't fit the system." Well, no. That's because he is a player for a different system when we play a different game. Really and truly, if we were going to sit back like we did in this game from the start, probably would have made more sense to play Traore from the start.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then bring the other players on when we want the more possession-based sort of thing. I don't know. I say I'm not a manager, so
you don't know
what
what's
do I know? And, people say, "What do you know?" But that's just my opinion, and it's just a bit weird. It's almost like once. And the other thing for me was once Neto and Podence had gone off, it's like there didn't seem to really be a plan. Jimenez started playing pretty much everywhere. Traore seemed to have been told to stick to the line as close as possible, and then Silva, I think, was started over on the left, but then sort of seemed to drift more into the middle. We seem to just lose all, as if we hadn't trained for what that scenario brought us, which I found a bit surprising, if nothing else.
I think your point about if we're going to sit back, if we think the teams are going to come on strong, or even if our plan is to take the game to them, if Traore is fit 100%, you're sure his shoulder will stand up to. You'd want him just going for it a bit, wouldn't you? Or alternating it in some games, because at the moment it's almost like, well, you want to prepare for this game, just watch the last 5 Wolves games. It's bar Palace, it's going to be the same. This is what you're going to have to do. They'll be on that blade of grass, then they'll move the ball back, reset your line. I just don't get why. It's almost as if there's some master blueprint of what perfection in football looks like for Nuno, and that's what we're trying to attain, even if we haven't quite got the players. And I can buy into that, because I don't mind it if there is that plan, because there are players who are quite young and inexperienced, like Neto. People say, "Oh, he drifts out of games, or he gets his head down." He's so young, and like you've said, he's got so much potential. And Podence is pretty much like Neto 3 years down the line. He's got that skills. I think there's a lot of positives there, but we just don't seem to always play to our strengths. That's what
I found the difference from the last game and this one. The tactics seemed. I didn't quite get what the tactics. I didn't understand why we decided to go back to some. After looking so good in the last game, where we seemed to be much more forward-minded and further up the pitch and wanted to hold on to it in the opposition's half, to then go back to what we were doing before, I don't understand why we've done that. It was almost as if we were trying to conserve energy and.
Maybe we're just afraid to play the big sides now.
Maybe. Well, maybe it was the tried and tested formula. Hit the big sides on the break.
I must say, actually, I do wonder actually how where our greater intent was, considering that they played in Europe on Thursday. There's kind of no excuse for it. We're the ones this season who are having much more rest. Leicester aren't. They've got, I'd say the last 3 weeks they've been in 2 games a week. on a Thursday and a Sunday, Thursday, Sunday, Thursday, Sunday, Thursday, Sunday, and I think they've won all but one of them. And in fact, on Thursday they gave Braga, whom obviously we had some joy with in the Europa League, with that 3-3 last. They're hiding. They beat them 4-0. So I do think, yeah, Leicester has not show that impetus and that oomph that we've really got going forward. Not to have been able to show it again is super disappointing, and I can understand why fans are beginning to get frustrated. Like, it's beginning to get the same old. Oh, it feels boring now. It will be interesting to see what the approach is for the rest of this year, with these games on paper now looking rather tricky. And they wouldn't. Southampton next will not be easy either. So I just hope that there is a different something is done to try and enable our folks to try and move forward.
Yeah. Well, before we go on to the next game, so some player rating stroke man of the match.
Neves probably, just for his strike and the fact that I think he's the best midfielder in the world, and like Jota, when he moves, he's going to be all anybody can talk about.
Jota.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. Jota. Just Neves.
Jota plays for Liverpool. Attitude. Questionable. Anyway, I'm going to go my man of the match. I'm actually going to go with Bolly, because I thought he played very well, and certainly looked like the Bolly of old, and was coming out with the ball a lot more. His passing was a lot more on point, as the phrase is used sometimes, and was pretty good. I thought he was definitely the pick of the back three, because realistically, Leicester, apart from that penalty, well, the two penalties, didn't really have all that much on. So in terms of a performance in that sense, Wolves were great, but they just, because they had nothing to go the other way. I can only say that I think Bolly, and then, to be honest, it's a close second with Rui, because he saved a penalty.
With his balls.
With his balls. Giant balls.
He can make so. Yes. I would probably agree, actually, because I think Willie, it's just ironic. You speak about balls, and obviously Willie Bolly's first name is Willie. I think Bolly was. I think Willie was, again. He's going stronger through the season. It's what we have been used to. Obviously, the goal was nothing you can obviously really deal with a very good penalty. But I think on the whole, he was just able to get back. The block he made for say Harvey Barnes' shot, or whomever it was brilliant. The way he just stuck his leg out, made himself as wide and as big as he can. Try and make himself, I think, the biggest person, the longest person in Leicester at that point to block the shot, and he did. And I think just overall he was again resolute in that back three. I don't think Cody was too bad neither, particularly with his sweeper. The number of balls he was able to get through, but Leicester's defence held firm quite well. And I think also Rui probably for his save, as it was a rarity that Jamie Vardy misses a penalty, but it made up for obviously the first one, which, as we mentioned, had never been. So all else, I'm struggling to think who I'd give thumbs up to, in all honesty, because of the lack of going forward, particularly. Has someone scored, by the way, in the Liverpool game?
Alex, you've gone there, haven't you, Richard? Man of the match.
I would go for Bolly, and I think I do think Neves has played well. I think he has been for quite a few games. He does a lot of work that people don't appreciate, and I don't think him coming back too deep is his problem. I think it's more instruction, but I think you've got to stick with Bolly. And on the right, he's played the whole championship on the left. He played first season on the left, most of the last season. I think he's going to take time to get to the heights he had on the left, on the right. So I'm pretty happy with the defence. I mean, Kilman, I don't blame him for the penalty.
No, not at all.
He is, again, he's a player who's, I think he's developing very nicely. I'm very
He
happy
saved
with,
that shot too, right? Kilman was the one that would track back.
Yeah, he's, considering we got him from Maidstone, was it Maidstone?
Maidstone United.
Yeah.
I'm sure I heard as well. Didn't he play futsal for England as well?
I couldn't remember.
Believe it or not, that was not mentioned on the commentary this afternoon. Extraordinary.
I was waiting for it. It's like a bingo, isn't it? You know, what time is it?
For the first time this season, Alex, Max Kilman.
I was on the edge of my seat.
I don't recall hearing it either on this end, so it's a good day. That's a win.
They mentioned Maidstone. I was thinking, and what else? What else?
What's next?
So no, I am disappointed with the result, but I'm not really. Sorry, the performance. I'm not really disappointed with the result because I think if you don't go out to win a game, it's like boxing. If you watch a boxing match and there's a champion and a challenger, the challenger has to take the belt off the champion, and once they've got a goal up, you've got to go and take the game. You've got to go and grab the game. And I hate sitting back on a 1-0, which we've seen a few times last season.
It's one of my biggest bugbears.
Olympiacos.
I could go back under the Mark McGee years, and you sit there going, no. Don't bring nothing wrong with Moutinho, but I know what you're going to do if you bring Moutinho on. I know what. So in a way, I hate to say it, but I kind of think if we go one down, we've got to go and grab the game. And when we went 1-0 up last week, it was so early we couldn't sit back for the whole game. So I think we had to kind of play like we've got to score again because we couldn't sit back for 60 minutes, whatever. So I much prefer an early goal, ideally to us, because if we get it, I think it takes the pressure off in that we can afford to slip up. If it's the other team, we've got to go and take the game to them. So I just think we need to be more positive in general. So in terms of the players, I wouldn't hammer any of them particularly. I think Neves or Bolly man of the match.
Yeah, I go with it. I can see that. I mean, I do think, as just a shout to Rui, because he did save the penalty with his big balls, and really didn't have anything else. Well, he didn't have that much else to do, did he? Really? Let's face it. I mean, he had to knock one over from Vardy from a tight angle.
He came out for a corner, I think, and bunched it a bit rather than grabbing it. He's a lot better on crosses now, isn't he?
Yeah, I know as well. Actually, once or twice he grabbed the ball and stuff. It's that urge. He was trying to urge those who come back to say block the corner, get forward. To get forward, he was running, wanting to pass the ball out, and realising there's no options left. I think that's a problem, which is going to have to be. But that's another thing which is going to have to be told that if you have to a corner that the keeper gets it, get forward, be prepared to receive the ball.
There was a lot of static players today on the when we got possession. There was a lot of players who were just standing in a position and not really making themselves available, which I think which certainly wasn't happening in the game before.
Mm-hmm.
There's one case in the first half where Nori got the ball and he almost went to go forward and then thought, no, I've got to play it back. You could actually see him go, no, I'm not going to do that. And it looked to the life of me like instructions. His natural instinct was to go forward, but he checked himself, turned and played it back. And I thought, no. Just take
whoever on the coaching staff has got that voice that keeps pumping. I've said this a few times now. There's a voice in the room that keeps saying, "Oh, I reckon we've got to do this week, where we've got to sit back and we should do that, shouldn't we, boss? Yeah, let's do this. That's the way we should do it." And then they've gone, "All right, yeah, let's give that a go again."
Probably Moutinho gets just too old to run for 90 minutes.
Yeah.
So let's just take it easy this week and next week and the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Anyway,
sorry, that was rude. I love you. I love you, Dal.
Next match. Southampton
at home, which is after the international break.
Oh, international break there.
But 3 Nations League games, I know. Along with actually to the England's under 21s coming to Molyneux actually for Euro under 21 qualifiers, I think, just to note as well. So good to see the Golden Palace being shown in that way. Southampton have made a very good start. Fair play to Ralph and Hassan Hootel, who had to pick them up after obviously that pummeling by Leicester last year, but he's got his side going, and you got to give credit again where credit is due for what they're doing and what he's doing. And I think it will be quite a tricky one. We beat them at home, I think. Did we beat them at home last season? Or was it a draw? I can't remember. But I know obviously that away game was a corker last season down at St Mary's. Oh, hello. But this one could be an interesting one, I think. Hang on a moment.
Live. It's all live. This is live, authentic video. This is.
Well, I figure Wolves 0, Southampton 0.
0-0.
And that'll be that.
Right. I'll be honest.
I think there'll be goals against Southampton, but I don't know who for. That's the problem. I think Southampton are better than people think. Because he's trying to get them to play football, you're always going to be a bit prone to everything just falling apart sometimes. I suspect that I'd like to think we'd win. We're capable of winning. And I'm going to say, I'd say we'll win. I don't know what the score will be, but I think we'll win. I hope to God we do, because I can't stand 2 defeats. I can't take it.
I don't want to interrupt you, but the same situation just happened with Gomez on Liverpool running in the box and getting hit while in a natural position on his elbow, and we're going to see what VAR does. The exact same scenario.
It will not be
oh my goodness.
They have the Champions card they can play.
It's exactly the same. Like if you change the kit to gold, it would look exactly the same, except Brony was a little further outside the box, so it's even further away. Yeah.
Has he gone to the screen to have a look?
Yeah, he's going right now. Yeah.
That means it's a penalty then. It is a penalty.
That's ominous.
If it's consistent, you can't argue with it, really, can you?
That's why I interrupted you. I wanted to see what they would do.
Before my dog's interrupted, anyway, just quickly, I think it'll be an interesting one. Southampton, they've got a lot of confidence, but knowing the way in which we were able to bounce back from quite a tricky situation last season, hopefully, I think we could produce a similar kind of performance where we have to really dig in, but show what we're capable of. And I therefore will go with a 2-1 Wolves. And obviously Danny Ings being out will be a bonus. Maybe I think it's his foot or something that he's done in.
They've given the penalty, by the way. Shocking.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
At least it's consistent.
Yes.
Madness is fair. If you're consistently mad, that's fine.
Well, at least you know where you stand, then, don't you?
Yeah, you do. And in a way, you can't argue if they're consistent.
Yeah.
If they're inconsistent, then they're open to it being scrapped. But if it's a big talking point and somebody's saying it's the same, you've got to give it. Then
I think we're going to need a 4th strip, which is designed mainly on a straitjacket.
We'll just pull
that way they'll never give a penalty away.
What about a green 4th strip that blends in so you can't see if it's if it's an arm that's out or not? You know.
Well, somebody suggested amputating outfield players' arms.
It could work. De Bruyne missed the penalty. Oh my gosh.
Oh, that wouldn't help with Dharma, of course, considering it's mainly the use of his arms and the baby oil. What any prediction then? Whoever was left?
Sorry, yes, Alex and I were both on 0-0. Richard, you went 2-1, was it?
I didn't give a score. I'll go.
I know you
2-0.
thought it would win.
I'll go
Sorry,
for 2-0 then.
I'll go 2-1. I think again, Southampton will probably score no when if that they are, but we'll hopefully be able. Hopefully there'll be a nice. If we play well in these internationals, hopefully there'll be a nice way to. We can say the boys can then hopefully double back that up with this performance, and see from there. Let's hope.
Right then. Well, in that case, on that last bit, we'll end the chat. Thank you, Richard, for joining us. Please join us again if you want to in the future. Alex, Cash, I'll see you after the Southampton game, and anyone else, if you want to join us, I will be posting up on.
What time's the Southampton? What day and what time is the Southampton?
No idea. I have no idea.
Let me have a look for the record quickly.
It'll change. It'll change 3 times over between now and then anyway.
No, we're going to hold.
Anyway, Richard, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah.
At the moment, it's 3 p.m. That's before they obviously encounter doing the TV picks.
Have they said what they're doing? Because they said they're going to scrap after the international break the pay-per-view. So what are they going to do? Have anyone got an idea? Is it going back to all games on Sky BT, or are we just not going to see them?
I think they're going to split them between the 3 broadcasters who've got the rights. I think.
It's probably
that is the
probably the only way.
Who knows whether the BBC would get
Anyway,
right.
so yes, that's the end this time, definitely. If anyone wants to join us next time, the links will be on the forum. Richard, thank you. Cash, thank you. Alex, thank you.
Good.
And goodbye all.
Cheers.